Hey YouTube. I want to take a little bit of time to talk to you guys about the big three, or in my opinion, the big four, when it comes to aesthetics gains versus strength. And when I say the big three or the big four, I'm talking deadlifts, bench press, back squats, and in my humble opinion, you got to throw in overhead press because at the end of the day, while everybody's like, oh yeah, no, bench press, impressive, overhead press, in my opinion, is, well, actually, in a lot of people's opinion, I shouldn't say just my opinion, but the overhead press is like the back squat of your upper body. All right. Taking a weight from your straight from your chest and going straight up in one solid movement without bending your legs and turning it into a push press, to me, is a fundamental show of strength. People can bounce, 315 off their chest for a bench press, or people can come down, not touch your chest, or even come down halfway. But if you unrack a bar and it's sitting right here, and you can lock your legs and just push your entire body weight over your head, that's fucking strength, guys. So let's talk about the big four. For aesthetics purposes, now I see a lot of people at the gym that have amazing bodies, and a lot of them will do like leg press. Not against leg press. I actually like the leg press for aesthetics purposes, not so much for strength, but that's a different story for a different time. But you see a lot of guys that have the best bodies generally do the big three or the big four for aesthetics purposes, which means higher rep, lower weight. And the reason for this is keep in mind that when you're doing the major lifts, like the big three or big four, I'm just going to start calling it the big four, you're using the most muscle groups possible for gains, right? Whether that be for strength or aesthetics. So when you're doing a back squat, it's not just quads, it's hamstrings, it's glutes, it's abdominals, it's your lower back. It's your upper back, keeping your chest upright. It's your fucking pectorals. It's your biceps, believe it or not. It's your triceps. It's everything. Go to do a deadlift. Trust me, every muscle in your body is working with a deadlift. You can't help but. So given that the big four will use the most muscles to do the exercise, doesn't it make sense to do them? Right? Wouldn't it make sense that if you're going for aesthetics, you're even though, let's say, for example, doing a deadlift, right? I mean, I don't do anything for my traps, and my traps aren't huge. They're not that big. They're barely, boop, they're itty bitty teeny tiny, right? But you still get some trapezius work when you're trapezius traps. Anyways, still get some work on your traps when you're doing a deadlift, just simply by hauling the weight up, right? It puts strain on your traps. So, everything's getting worked. Even if you don't work it, it gets worked. Or even if you don't realize you're working it, it gets worked. And that's where, fundamentally, if you are doing an aesthetics-based program as opposed to strength, consider the big four for aesthetics. Do one of the major compounds, back squat, deadlift, overhead press, or bench press, and then go do your accessory work. And what you're going to end up doing is you're going to pre-fatigue the muscles. So yeah, maybe you can't do as much heavy weights for lateral raises for as many sets because you've already smashed the shit out of it in order to get to your accessory work. So always lead with the big four for aesthetics purposes, because at the end of the day, they use the most muscles and they get all those stabilizer muscles that you might miss by not doing them. Now, I think that when it comes down to aesthetics, which I've said in the past on my channel, I don't concentrate on aesthetics. I am purely a strength-based trainer. However, having said that, I don't look like shit. I don't look amazing. I don't look great, but I look okay, in my opinion. I don't look as good as my bodybuilding counterparts that do just straight aesthetics. But I look okay without a shirt on. Having said that, and that's just from doing heavy weights, right? That's just heavy strength training, right? Build a big chest, big arms, big back, right? I don't do a lot of accessory work. I do some, but not a ton. So concentrate on the big four, right? Add them to your routine. Do high volume of them, because if you're using more muscles, you're burning more calories, you're getting more overload on your muscles before you go and do your accessory work. Also, you could always pre-fatigue the shit out of your quads and then go do some front squats. You're going to hate your life, but my God, you're going to get aesthetics gains, right? Because you're going to you're going to overload those muscles and get all those little teeny tiny muscles working. The other advantage of pre-overloading your muscles or pre-working them is that, if you pre-destroy your quads and then you go do front squats, your quads are fucked. So everything else has to kind of step up its game and be like, okay, well, quads are out, so everything else has to kind of chip in a little bit more where the quads would normally have pushed. So the big four, big fan of them for both the strengths and aesthetics purposes. Not really a whole lot to say when it comes to that. At the end of the day, I think you should do both strength and aesthetics as part of your training, but the big four will get you there so much faster than just doing accessory work. So consider it, if you don't already do the big four, to start adding the big four to your lifting routine. And yeah, I would go from there, just because they do use the most muscles, you have the most overload, and you can move the most weight. I don't know if you guys heard that. Somebody's screaming somewhere. Anyways, that's my humble opinion, and I do know a lot of people will back me up on that, especially within the fitness community, that the big four really are where it's at, whether it becomes strength or aesthetics, right? That's it. Post questions and comments down below. I'd love to hear you guys' opinion. There's not a lot of solid arguments against doing the big four for aesthetics purposes, to be honest with you, because if you do it right, there's no risk for injury, and at a lower weight, you're even at less risk for injury. I have heard people say, like, the big four, not so much for heavy weights because you can hurt yourself, and if done incorrectly, absolutely, 100%, right? So that's it. Questions, comments down below, guys. I'd love to hear your opinion, but consider the big four if you don't already do them. Add them to your routine for aesthetics purposes, because I guarantee you're going to see a difference aesthetics-wise. If nothing else, you're going to be using more muscles and burning more calories, so maybe if you're cutting, might help you out there too. Just saying is all. As always, guys, eat like a bodybuilder, train like a powerlifter.